Liv, we are back. How are you? What's the haps?
Do you know what? I feel like it's taken me half a year to finally find a routine. Like it's been not like kids are a bit older, so definitely been a little bit more social. Work is semi under control, not having to travel so much. Kids finally are okay with knowing what days they're going where. You know, we have a couple of days at a daycare, a couple of days at a kinder, a day that's grandma. Finally, halfway through the year, we're good. We know what we're doing. We're calm.
And like, how grounding is that though? Like when you're like, okay, well, at least the foundation is set. But
Now I've put it out to the universe. Guess what's going to happen tomorrow? Well, shit's going to hit the fan, and I'll be back where I was last year, where this was therapy, and I was literally rocking like, how do we all survive this? This is the hardest, worst thing ever.
do you know what was so tough as well, particularly when our little ones? So for those listening, Liv and I have two little ones, 4 years old and 2 years old, and when they were like, call it one, and they were starting off at daycare, and the colds every day, and the taking time off, and or the unpredictability of it all, it just messes with you, doesn't it?
Oh, I have never been more close to broken when it was just the fifth illness and the 25th day off work.
Yes.
And you're feeling rubbish yourself and you're just like, how did I get here?
Actually,
I thought parenting was just like going to parks and
yeah.
like your kid eating their dinner and no illness. Like, and I might like a day off work, not 25 days off work.
Yes,
Like,
right.
wow.
So for those of you who are in that right now, we so hear you. And it does get better. You have different challenges, but it does get better on that front.
And then you forget, like childbirth, you actually forget how bad it was.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre, this whole
Yes.
parenting thing. You just keep rolling. We
Yes.
are, as mothers and fathers, I think we are pretty resilient generally with, you come out of it okay.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. How is work going, and what's keeping you busy at the moment?
Works good.
Yeah.
Again, I've put that out to the universe. I need to stop saying that. Actually, no, it's nice to when things are going well because often I know we come on here and we're like, bloody hell. But actually, for me, things are going well right now. Fingers crossed they continue that way. What else is keeping me busy? I've been helping Dad so my dad is an industrial designer. He's an inventor. I've always described him as an inventor to my friends.
That. Yes.
And he's invented it's like, remember when we were kids, it was like a totem, we played totem tennis. So you'd like stick it in the ground and you'd hit it, with a tennis racket.
The ball and on the string.
The ball on the string.
And you hit it,
A tethered ball, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that is because I'm trying to help Dad with his social media. So he's just launched this product. Check us out, guys. Not sponsored, just love.
Yes. I'll pop the details in the episode notes.
Thanks, Lee. At Tactic Tennis on Insta. And we'll put the link in the show notes. But yeah, it's a dad. I mean, I'm so proud of him. He's just designed a toy that will, I hope, go really well globally. It's kind of designed for kids who are 8, 9, 10, even teens, even families who, are perhaps short on space. You don't need a grass patch to put your totem tennis pole in anymore. It's got a really cool base that is just filled with water. It's digitized so kids can have a competition with how fast they're hitting the ball and how many times, and it links to the socials, and it's just super cool. And it's nice to have a toy that's not on a screen and will get our kids moving, because we all know that our kids probably spend so much time sitting on couches. But, Dad's idea is that kids in the States who have basements, in the winter in America, who can't leave the house can, still do something that's active and fun. And, people here, like, who have smaller courtyards and not a whole heap of space, that still want their kids moving. So,
hey, that's me right now.
Check it out. Check it out. Yeah, I think it's really, really cool.
So what's the actual structure? So you said there's obviously no.
It's got a really good base.
Yep.
It's in a bag, so you can pack it away super easily. It's the pole. It's got the tethered ball.
Yep.
It comes with 2 rackets.
Yep.
And there's an app that you'll download, and you just have, it's as simple as that.
Okay.
And it is just a really good, fun tool that everyone can use.
Yeah, I love that. Anything to keep our kids moving and keep them, preoccupied, and that doesn't take up too much space. And as a city goer, having a place, just outside the city with a small courtyard, that's like, it ticks the boxes, right?
Hand-eye coordination.
Yes.
Just good stuff.
Love that.
Just to get them moving. So
check
us out. Pretty exciting.
Amazing.
And now I'm a social media whiz. Who would have thought?
Yeah, welcome to the party. I feel like the Parenthood pod taught me so much about social media that I just never knew. So for all of those following us, thank you. And for all of those who aren't, please follow us. We are at Parenthood Pod. Speaking of socials, actually, so we actually put a call out to our community on Insta, just sort of asking, hey guys, do you have any questions for us? And we'll
You have to go first.
yeah. We will play them. We'll answer them on the pod. So, okay, I've got these list of questions.
Okay.
Liv, are you ready? Okay.
I'm actually terrified. What do you? Have I been set? If any of my friends on here have set me up, I will know it's you.
So, of the responses, I got the more juicy ones that I thought, might be quite engaging to listen to.
Of course you did.
So, it wasn't the what's your favorite color?
Yes. After dark special.
After dark, absolutely. So, okay, so I'll go first, given I'm the one that put this idea out to the world. So, the first question I wanted to roll with was, what is the hardest thing about parenting to date? And I literally, when I saw this, I was like, you know what? My head semi-exploded because I'm like, do I have to choose one thing? Only one? Like, okay. And I don't even know if this is necessarily the hardest thing, but for someone like me, I like, structure. We were talking about this earlier, right? We like to sort of know that generally things are kind of panning along and what you've planned for is going to happen. And I just remember, and speaking about, the colds in the first year of daycare and those sort of things, I found that really mentally draining, knowing that you could never plan just in general because you just didn't know what was going to happen next with your children. And being a selfish individual prior to children and only having to worry about myself, it's so jarring that overnight you have this little human and it's like having your heart out of your chest. You care for this little thing so much, but it is so bloody unpredictable, from the tantrums to the colds to the, all the things in between, that all of a sudden your life that may have seemed relatively predictable as life can be, is all of a sudden not. And for someone like me, that's anxiety producing. So I don't know if that's the hardest thing.
Do you reckon it's getting easier? You're learning strategies to put in place. Are you trying to just be more mindfully chill about stuff?
I think it's like anything, right? It's like starting a new job or starting something new. Once you've had a little bit of practice at it, i.e., you've had your schedule thrown out the window a million times, it doesn't affect me now nearly as much as it did a year ago. And I feel like I can bounce back from that and it's less grating. But certainly at the start, I just felt all over the place. And as you know, I had postnatal depression initially. And so I'm already like mentally kind of unstable and I've always dealt with anxiety. Sort of, it's always simmered on the surface for most of my life. So, I had spikes in that. But I feel like finally, to your point, it probably is much more, I've got my head around it more now, I think. I don't know. Has that ever been, I mean, of course it would throw anyone feeling like the unpredictability of parenting, but did that bother you?
I think absolutely. And I think most parents would have some level of it, right? We used to do things whenever we wanted. Now that we can't, we're thinking and caring about one or two or three or four other people other than ourselves. And sometimes you just don't want to do that. Like, let's be real. So, whether that brings about anxiety and stress, I think it's different for everyone. But I definitely have said a number of times, I didn't think it'd be like this. And that is really overwhelming. And I think my response to the question would be very similar. What is the hardest thing about parenting to date? I think for me it was the realisation that you couldn't do it all. I remember being pregnant with Tommy and saying, when I confirmed it with work, I was having a baby and I was so excited to have a baby, but I'll be able to do it all, and I'm a lot more realer now with myself and my colleagues who are having babies that you can have it all. I just don't think you can have it all at the one time easily. That's how I would probably put it now. And I'm a lot more cooler with that because, you reflect on the last 4 and a bit years for us, the lack of sleep, how hard that makes it to function, you can absolutely be pushing your career and parenting and doing all of these things, but sometimes one has to come ahead of the other. And now I reflect on a kind of an annual period and I can see the flex that it has had. And yeah, that's just really hard.
Yeah, and setting up the right structures. We've spoken about this a lot, but putting the structures in place to be able to do things like a job or whatever that you're, spending, having the daycare, having the nanny, having the family support if you're fortunate enough to have all of, those sort of things. So it is really, all of a sudden, it ain't about you anymore, and it's just about just trying to, work through the juggle, right?
Wouldn't you just love to lie in bed on a Sunday night? Especially as the weather's cooler now.
Yes.
And you're just like all rugged up, and then all of a sudden there's a punch to the head. And you're just like, I just want to lie here and just kind of not do anything. But instead, I've got to get porridge for you and 10 for Tommy. He has 10 like little sandwiches cut up, and if I do 9 or 11, it's like World War III. He must have 10, and he eats every single one of them and counts them as he goes.
Stop.
It's just bizarre.
That is so cute. But good learning, Liv. Good learning,
We're
education. Yeah.
School ready. It's going to be school ready. Exactly.
Okay, so another one that I've got is, what is something about you that you wouldn't want anyone else to know?
Well, I obviously don't want anyone else to know it. Like, what kind of who asked this? This is one of my friends for sure.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you got to go.
Okay, all right. So mine more recently it's probably I probably come across as a relatively confident, I've got this kind of person, or at least that's the feedback that I receive from a lot of people. And I feel as though deep down I have like massive imposter syndrome and insecurities, as we all do. But I just think I don't necessarily want others to know that. I'm very proud about, presenting in a way that's like, I've got this, to the point where, when I haven't got this, I've really struggled to ask for help because I never wanted anyone to really see me struggle. And I think that really comes back to your childhood as well. And I grew up in a family where, my parents were working extremely hard to build something for us. There was a lot of sort of financial tension and things like that as they were building a business. And it was like, as the eldest child, I had to be capable. And it's like, don't add extra stress to an already stressful environment. Just sort it, Leonie. And, and so, and that, they did the best they could. And that was just the dynamic of the household. I have 2 younger sisters, and probably there was a little bit less of that for them because at that point, they're 6 and 7 years younger than me. At that point, the financial stress was not as great. So, and I was also that, eldest child, look after the younger sisters, be capable, do all the things. And I certainly wasn't perfect. But when I wasn't perfect, I felt I needed to mask that as much as possible. And so I think as an adult, I don't like people to know that when I'm struggling. And it's really since Parenthood, actually, Parenthood has held me account, I think, because there's so many times where you are falling apart and it's not just about you anymore. It's, the million other things that you're trying to juggle, and you do have to call out for help. So I think I'm getting better at that, but I definitely really struggle with just this whole this insecurity and this, I don't want other people to see it. Here's a story. So the other day, for those listening, I've just recently started modeling, right? So just something else random I could add to the portfolio. So it was actually through the so from the podcast, a few opportunities presented themselves for me to collab with some brands, and I was doing a few campaigns with a couple of different brands. And then from there, the feedback was, actually, you're pretty okay at this. Why don't you get an agent and do this as like a little side job? And I was like, yeah, actually, I really enjoy being in front of the camera. I think, Liv, you would know, I've always wanted to do this sort of stuff.
This has been a dream. How old are we? Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, right.
20-year dream, people.
I was always like, oh, how cool would it be to, and so, but I never gave myself really the opportunity to even explore media or anything like that. And so, because I took the safe route and I, got the job and I went to the uni and I, didn't want to get distracted by things that weren't going to necessarily get me to where I wanted to be. And so finally now Parenthood's really shaken all of that up for me. And I do have the sound job, but I also have the podcast, which is my passion. And also now I'm just saying yes to things. So here I am doing this modeling thing, right? right? So anyway, so I was at the agency that I'm with, and I'm with Brooklyn Management, by the way. I can say that because
Shout
that's
out.
a public thing. But basically, so I'm at Brooklyn's agency, and we were doing like sort of a how to be a model, I guess, workshop, right? And I'm like, yeah, teach me because I've got no idea. And I completely bombed out. So basically, there was this like top model there. It really did feel like Australia's Next Top Model vibes, and she's there, and she's like, do this pose. And when you're looking at the camera, you want to do this, you got to get the light. The light has to hit you on that angle. Know your angles. And I was so inspired by her. And I'm like, I can do this. And she goes, great. Now it's all of your turn, right? So we had photographers there and things like that. And they were, each person got up with the photographer and we were critiquing each other and things like that, right? My turn. It's my turn to get up. And I'm like, mind you, everyone in the room's like 20 and fabulous. And there's me like mid-30s, like Leonie with the kiddos.
You're fabulous, huh? You are fabulous.
But I felt so out of my depth. So I get up and they're like, right, Leonie, so we want to like go. And I was like, and I like awkwardly smiled and I was like, they're like, okay, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit. And I was like, the more she said, be more relaxed, I was like, I'm feeling more tense because I'm like, I'm not perfect at this. How am I not perfect at this? Like, you get to a point in your life where you've worked so hard for certain things that you're pretty well proficient in things like your job or certain things, and I felt like a fish out of water by the time that 3 minutes of death was up of me being in front of the camera. I walked away like sulks back in my seat and I was like, I don't want to be a model anymore. I'm like, oh, this massive imposter syndrome, like why am I even here? This is like I'm not 20.
I've seen
not
the shots. You're doing it because you're fabulous.
So I just thank you, but it was just one of those moments as well where I was just like, got home, I said to Jules, I don't think I can do this, and he goes, is it because you're not like awesome at it because you've done it like for 3 minutes? And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, you think you're going to be awesome the first go? And I was like, oh, well, I mean, when you put it that way, he's like, do you think maybe you need to practice? Maybe maybe these top models don't just like get born and then they fall in front of a camera and they're, and I was like, okay, this is like a humbling experience. I'm not good at something. I want to be better. And funnily enough, soon after that, I managed to actually book a couple of jobs and I've done a few jobs and I felt super confident after that really bad experience. So, I guess to my point, so many times there's been these insecurities and imposter syndrome that I, certainly would like to mask as much as possible. But that's my thing. What about yours, Liv?
I feel like mine would be the exact same. And I love that we can be vulnerable now, both on the pod. But I think just more generally, women and men are able to show and are encouraged to show greater vulnerability, that we're all human. Like we all feel these things. We all have things that keep us awake at night or stresses or anxieties. Like mine's probably similar to the imposter syndrome, but for me, it comes up more as a really inner self-critic. So I kind of feel like I've worked really hard to be where I am and I belong where I am, but I just tear myself down, like that wasn't good enough, or you could have prepared more for that, or you shouldn't have spoken like that, or you didn't, articulate clearly what you're like. Everything like that is, I am critical about every single thing that I do, and that has, been in my life for as long as I can remember, and that propels me. Sometimes I explain or described as a bit of a fear of failure in many ways, but it's a really hard thing to carry around too, because sometimes you just want to go, shit, no, that was good. You did a good job. Like, well done. It's very rare that you do that. I'm always looking, and I see myself often doing it with my team too, that I'm critical of. I'm critical of them when I should be saying, you did a really good job. I'm the person that was like, what would you do different next time? And I'm trying so hard because they do a really good job, but I've just got this relentless drive for it to always be better. And I want everyone to know that I am working on that. It's not something that, you just got to work on these things, right?
Oh, 100%.
Not afraid to share.
Yeah, totally. And I think awareness is like the first step, they always say, right? You're just being aware of certain things, as we all do when we reflect, and if you're aware of it, then you stop it, you try to stop it infiltrating other areas of your life. As you said, even as you were talking, I thought, oh, I do that too. The critical mind is very strong in my mind as well. And I sometimes have to think, I just don't want to put that on my kids, like, and I do that too, like, oh yeah, tennis, yeah, you did well at tennis, no, now remember your stroke needs to go, like, it's straight back to, like, and you did well, but and sometimes it's you did well, full stop, like, let it go, like, it doesn't have to be perfect every time.
Don't always have to be looking for something else.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
but hey, if you're aware of it,
it.
that's
we're all
that's the
working on
important
something.
thing. Absolutely.
Okay,
Okay,
what else?
so
What
I've got another one. So I thought this was a good one. So what experiences in your childhood are you trying not to replicate, I guess, as a parent today?
I actually think my parents did a pretty good job. Shout out mum and dad. What would I change? I don't know. Like, we've probably spoken about this on the podcast previously. It'll probably manifest more as the boys get older. A lot of our difficulty, tension between our parents was when we started to really have a level of independence and wanted to do things that they didn't want us to do. And my parents, I'm speaking on your behalf a little bit here, and you can fill in the gaps. But I felt at times, and still feel, and have discussed this at length with them, that they were probably too strict, and that meant that I did some things that perhaps if they gave me a little bit of rope, I wouldn't have needed to do. Who knows? Maybe I would have done it anyway. I don't know. But I don't know, like, maybe when the boys are 16 and starting to test the boundaries and do the things that you and I were doing, we might, maybe not to the extreme. But mum and dad were always very good at setting boundaries. And I think on one of the recent pods that we did, mum was saying I need to do more of that. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm starting that now. And hopefully that plays out, as they grow up and into their teenage years, which terrify me.
Yeah, because it's interesting you say that. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and they were saying that they've got teenage kids, and they were like, look, well, I see it, because the mum was saying, in my relationship with my parents, they had a kind of more of a disciplinarian culture. They were like, the strict parents, and then so I would never really tell them the deep things, or if there was something that was going on in my life that was not academic related or something, I probably wouldn't say much to them as a teenager. And that really resonated with myself, because similarly, my parents, not coming from this country originally and things like that, were very, very focused on academics and, have the secure job. And to get that secure job, to make a bit of money, you need to go to a specific uni and you need to study a degree that makes sense and blah, 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 like the safe route, right? So therefore, we're stricter on me, as a child. But she said that what she loved was the other night her son, who's 16, was out. An incident happened with a friend who was, I don't know, drank too much, and the son straight away rang his mum, my friend, and said, "Mum, we're on Chapel Street. I think you need to come and pick us up. Dan, my mate, is passed out. I don't know if I should call the ambos," and she's talking him through it. Okay, tell me, what's he like? And meanwhile, she's pulling on her, like, Uggs to get in the car. She's like, I'm coming. They only live around the corner. So, and she was just like, and the kid was fine. She managed to get him up and, and took him home, and then off she went with her son home. And she goes, what I loved was that he didn't feel ashamed to call me when shit hit the fan. I was there because I'd fostered such a close relationship with him. She goes, I would never have been able to do that with my parents. I would have been embarrassed. Like, I'm not going to tell my parents that someone's passed out. Like, awkward.
They'll never out of the house. That would have been us. We can't call them because they'll never let us out again, which for I know, having spoken to mum about this now, her decision making was based out of fear, like fear that
always
something bad would happen to me.
Yes, yeah.
Still is in our late 30s. If she knows that I'm out, she still calls me the next morning and says, "Did you get home okay?" Yeah. And I see it now. You tell them a story, and mum's like, "I just don't want you going out. Or I don't want you going to that place." Or I remember when you were going, when we're 18 and you'd go to Prince a lot. Yeah. Mum just would go out of her way to make sure that I would never go to Prince with you because she hated St Kilda as an example, because she was fearful about what would happen there. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I think your friend is really right around just building that trust that no matter what time of the day, night, wherever you are, whatever trouble you're in, you or your friend, you can call. I will not ask questions.
Yeah.
One of my other friends was, we had a similar conversation. She's like, I sometimes just don't ask questions. They know.
Yes.
We deal with it at another appropriate time
Yes.
rather than peppering them. How did you get there?
Yep.
Just say nothing. Just be there. They feel your energy. They know that they're loved no matter what. And then deal with it down the track.
It's funny you say that. So another friend of mine, they've got a teenage kid. So and they were talking about kids get it. You don't have to necessarily discipline up, on top of the punishment they're already feeling. So how's this? The 15-year-old's gone a little bit off the rails recently. Sort of, quite a privileged private school child, and decided he was going to shoplift because that would be fun, right? Gets caught, and then my friend's husband gets the call, your son is at the police station, come and pick up your son. Okay, so off he goes to the police station. There's his son, looking down and just my friend's husband was like, okay, what's happened? Obviously a bit, nervous, and the police are like, look, he was caught shoplifting this. Look, he can go, but we'll know within about a week whether any more charges are going to be pressed based on what's just happened. So the guy, the dad, takes his son home, doesn't say anything to him in the car. He's like, what you did was wrong. You are terrified. You've been sitting in the police station waiting for me to come. That's no joke. That's punishment in itself. Didn't say much at the time. He then, not the poor kid, I guess, it was again, punishment enough, waited a week not knowing whether he was going to have to go back to that police station or what was it.
That
and in
the
punishment, wasn't it? And the dad was like, I don't even know if he didn't even shoplift much. Did they just do that to scare him? Because what are they gonna, And anyway, so literally the only thing he had to say, the dad had to say was, look, you know what you did. I feel like I don't need to tell you not to do that again. Let this be the lesson. And
it's a different story.
And you know what? It was a turning point. So what happened was now he's gotten really heavily into rowing, and he has to be up at 5 a.m. and she's like, it's amazing. He's just really cleaned up his act because he's got the discipline and the boundaries because he's taken up a new activity that doesn't involve shoplifting, So but these are the things, right? These are the things you can't predict. You don't know what phone call you're going to get, and this is why our parents were fearful, and we probably will be fearful. But all we can do, and I want to be the mum that that my friend is, where my kids feel like they can call me no matter what. So starting to foster that relationship as much as possible from now, I think, is so important.
Let's listen back to this episode when the boys are 16 and we need to remind ourselves of what our vision is and where the reality is different.
Yeah, well, actually, and but this needs
to
ground us.
The boys will probably find this episode. Let's face it. Now we're recording this. They're going to find this episode and they're going to play it and be like, see, Mum, you said that you're going to be cool.
What happened to that? Oh, I love it. Well, to those, look, we had a lot of questions that came in. So thank you so much to those who took the time to write them. We'll probably do another episode where we can answer a few more. And I think they're cool topics. They're mini topics that we can flesh out. But so thank you again, everyone, for your contribution. And Liv, I think we'll leave it there. I'll catch you next time.
Good. See ya.